Our presentation today is on the Thien Baffle collector, dust chip collectors. I've already talked about a lot of it, but who is Thien? Where did this Thien thing come from? Okay, well, this guy, his name is Thien. And I guess he's the guy that came up with this whole idea about putting this baffle in there. Okay, but anyway, he's pretty much like the rest of us, problem solver. Need to do something, try it out, see if it works or not. And he actually published it a little bit. And if you are interested in reading up about him, any history or stuff, that's it. He has, oh, didn't make it up there. He has a web address. Okay. So you might ask yourself then, what is a Thien collector? What's the whole idea about it? Well, it's a cyclone, and after all, that cyclone thing is what really makes it work. The cyclone. Okay. So, but it is it put in a baffle. You say, okay, what's a baffle? Well, this was my first attempt at a baffle. It looks small, nothing to it, but then again, my collector's not that big. Okay, but this was my first attempt, and all I did here is I took an 1 1/4" hole saw. Well, first of all, I cut my circle, and as you'll see on a video that's coming up a little bit, I set this on an angle which matched the angle of my bucket. I cut it out on the bandsaw. Okay, and then I drill the holes on the hole saw, and then I went ahead and cut the rest of it out with the bandsaw. So I made a baffle. Now, you're going to find out that as we go through the presentation, that there are different ways of dealing with this. Okay, some guys like to square it off. Some guys like to just drill a hole. Depends on how lazy you are, I guess. But anyway, that is, now this is a drawing of what somebody come up with about a baffle. Now you'll see that there's really no measurement on there except for the 1 1/4" for the cutout. The rest of it is pretty well up to you in the container that you're going to put it in. Okay, so there's really no way you can really put measurements on it. Okay, the baffle itself is circular shape. This the inlet part here, this part right in here. Sort of disregard that because that's the part, as far as the drawing is concerned, that's just giving you some idea of where to arrange how you would put the baffle itself in there into your container. And that is sort of up to trial and error too, I think. But anyway, it gives you some angles in terms of how far around that you might want to make your, and this is basically a suggestion kind of thing. And I have some handouts on that if you're interested in, or if you're wanting to make one and have some idea of where to start. Okay, well basically that's what this is a place to start. It's on the section view over there. It shows the outlet, the diameter of the outlet, and it gives you some idea of where to place the baffle in relationship to the size of your outlet. Okay, but again, this is a suggestion kind of thing, more so than a rock solid information. So why build this thing? Okay, some ideas might be add the dust collector to your shop if you don't already have it. Okay, you might want to improve your existing system. If you already have a cyclone, like a lot of us already have a dust collector. I've got a dust collector that I built a long time ago out of the Popular Mechanics idea, and it's just a straight cyclone. That's a pretty good sized thing. I mean, this thing is like almost 7 foot tall. Time you got the motor on it, everything just barely fits into my shop area. But I don't know if I want to put a baffle in it or not. But I do get a lot of dust out the top, so I've been thinking, well, maybe if I want to go to all the trouble to dismantle this thing, put a baffle in it, I may want to do that. The main reason I did this is I wanted to reduce the buildup on my filters on these things, on the vacuum, not necessarily on my dust collector. My dust collector is one thing. This is something totally separate. I expect what I use my dust collector for, what I call my dust collector, is basically for chip removal. I use it on my surface planer, I use it on my joiner, table saw, rail arm saw, chop saw, that kind of thing. But when it comes time to do some other tasks, I like to have one of these. And the problem with using one of these is you get a buildup on the filter. The next thing you know, it's developing asthma. You know, it's groaning and carrying on. And so I got tired of having to take that thing apart, take it outside, dump it, blow it off of there. Just got tired of doing that. So, what does it do for you? It maintains a longer period of time that you have more vacuum power. Okay. So that's one of my primary reasons for building this thing. So, what are the parameters? Okay, you say, well, how big should this thing be? Well, now that's going to depend on your shop, your situation, how much room you've got. I was sort of concerned about how I'm going to get this thing around in the shop, because my floor space is at a premium. I've run out of wall space. I'm now hanging stuff off the ceiling. So how am I going to roll this thing around in the shop to do what I need to do? Okay? Well, there's really no limitations on this. Limitations are going to be whatever size you put on it in terms of the size of your vacuum. Okay? Now, what are you going to be dealing with? You're going to be dealing with chips, dust, both. Okay? So, what do you want this thing to do? You're going to be dealing with these things. What's its purpose? Collect chips and primarily keep the dust from clogging up the filter. That was my purpose, right there. Collecting stuff without getting the filter off by the time. Okay? Will it fit into your environment? How big is this thing going to be? Again, we're looking at, do you have a lot of floor space? Can you roll this stuff around? Is it going to be stationary? Okay, I wanted something mobile for myself. All right? This is the situation here. It's made to your specification, however big you want to make it. Thus, the reason why you don't have specific dimensions on drawings and things like that, except for what people do. Now, is that heavy concentration for a 6-year-old? I'm telling you what, that's one of my best pictures right there. I always, that's a granddaughter, and we were doing a Christmas present. Put together one of those things to get it loads of little packages, get it loads. All right. So now, how does this thing work? Okay, you had sort of an idea there in terms of how the cyclonic action works. Okay, and the cyclone throws the debris against the walls, goes in a circle, and basically gravity then pulls it down into the cylinder. Okay, and this gives you some idea of what visually what it looks like. So you see the idea of having the slot around the baffle kind of thing? This one here is very similar to what Jim brought in. Jim, right? Jerry. Ah, I knew it was a J. Anyway, very similar. Now, as you're going to see in the next couple of slides here, next few slides, is that the configuration of getting the stuff in, getting the air out, is somewhat up to suspect in terms of how do you deal with it, okay? Now, here's some different ways. Some people use plumbing fittings. Now, Mateus, and I sort of copied mine after Mateus, I did a few things a little bit different than he did, but I built this thing on the side out of wood to have the intake hose bringing it in. But as you can see on some of these guys are using plumbing filters. And basically that's what Jerry did, is use plumbing filters. And actually that might be a little bit better means of doing it in terms of expediency is concerned, in terms of getting around to it. But as these guys have got here, some of them are using metal fittings, some of them are using plastic PVC fittings, and then some of them are just, I like the idea here, and I really thought about doing this one here, where you just take the vacuum and set it on there. That might be even a more simpler form of dealing with it. Okay? I think, Jerry, was that that barrel that you were talking about, sort of like that one then? I don't think that...
That was an overkill. It's too big.
Too big? Okay.
Another 15 gallon if I was going to get one again.
The problem with this one up here at the top is that you notice that it's got two L's. One L coming in and one L going around. I think that would be a problem. because the L going in, as you noticed on the video there, it showed the air circulating, that it has a tendency to go around. And so basically, if you, okay, I figured that, right? This part right here, if that is the exhaust for the air coming in, this blowing this stuff around is going to come right out and suck that one right in. That would be a mistake. I sort of like this one right here. This kind of deal here. I gave a lot of consideration to that, and if I was going to do it on a scale sort of like Jerry did on his over here, I think I would sort of go with that possibly. I really like Jerry's collector over there. He did a real fine job on that. Now, the baffles themselves, there are different ways of dealing with the baffle. But as long as you've got that slot around the outside of it, so that the dust, whatever dust, chips, whatever, can go down into it and maybe break that airflow but coming back up. That's the main thing in terms of that. So as you can see here, there's different ways of attacking the same problem.
But most of them are 75%. Is that kind of the rule?
I don't know if there is any rule.
You know what I'm saying? You notice that all of them, they seem to go a slot about 75% of the way around.
Yeah. So I guess if you wanted to establish a rule, I guess you could do that. But I'm staying away from rules.
Yeah.
Well, your drawing up there earlier showed 240 degrees.
240. Well, that was again a suggestion. You know, here again, that's I think as long as it does, as long as I don't have to change it, clean out that filter a whole bunch, I'm doing my thing. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Does it matter where the inlet is in relation to that slot around the baffle?
That I think is where, if I was going to make any adjustments, that's where I would do my testing and trying and that kind of thing in terms of where that.
If you get where you can watch one, you'll see that dust coming in and that input pipe, and see how long it takes before it tends to drop down and start making that cyclone coming around, and then that's that part that's really collecting on that swoop around.
Well, now a question I have about that too is the power of the vacuum itself.
Yeah.
A vacuum, like I've got the Genie. It's like one of those big 12-gallon jobs, you know, and it's got more sucking power than this does. But I think if I was going to do that a little bit differently, that's something I would take into consideration. And then again, that's the sucking power. Now you see, there's different ways of dealing with the suspension. Yes, sir.
I want to ask you a question about the distance from the baffle, from your intake and your output side. According to Thien, that seems to be, you want them pretty close.
Yes.
According to him, what did you find?
Well, I'm of the opinion that the relationship of how far that that this pipe sticks down into your, this is nothing but PVC, and this is something else I wanted to talk to you about in case you didn't know about it. But good old PVC can make adaptations. All you need is a heat gun and whatever it is that you're going to put into it. It works really, really well. In this case here, what I needed to do is I needed to hook my PVC into this thing right here. So this is nothing more than a 2.5 inch PVC is all this is, but it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't fit on there. So I got the heat gun out, heated this up nice and warm, put it in there while it's nice and hot, and it really makes it really good. And now, if some guys, if you watch, I love that YouTube. Some of these guys on YouTube use a flame. All it does really, but it does it, but it scores it, chars it. And I don't like that. So, but I tell you what, a good old heat gun does a very good job of doing that right there.
How hot do you think you have to get that pipe to make it soft?
About 3 to 5 minutes or less.
So how hot temperature?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I just heat it up until I can push on it and it starts moving a little bit. That's what I do. Now another thing about this too that I found out is that if you heat it up, you can also shrink it. If it's like you want to go inside, you can squeeze it down, get it nice and warm that same way. Squeeze it down. Now if it's too much bigger, you have a real problem with that. But if it's real close to size-wise, heat that buddy up and it'll go right on the inside of it. Same thing with, now this is thin wall. This is Schedule 40. This is thin wall. But it does the same thing. And I tell you, it's become a factor of that. Now, different ways of attacking the problem. And again, if there was any kind of message that I'm trying to get across to you, that adaptation, thinking about it, processing information, and making it fit to your situation is the key. I like, Jerry's got a clear part on his. I like that. That way you can see the action of the dust. Some guys make it out of metal. You can see that there's several different ways of dealing with this. And a lot of you guys, I think, have these these collectors like this that you get here, these jets, or you get the ones you get at Harbor Freight or whatever. Just a little modification on those goes a long way, I think. Those really work really well if you're dealing with a lot of stuff. Now, again, lots of ways of dealing with it. So don't think that there's any written rules that says I've got to do it this way. You make it to fit your particular situation and with the materials that you've got. I wanted to make mine sort of like the so it could roll around, and so I sort of followed this thing here. I didn't make the part here. I thought about that, and maybe at some point in time, if it comes to a point where mine's not stable, I may consider doing this, putting this part here. Well, one of the nice things about it is you have a place to put your accessories if you have accessories. I find that sometimes I have to hunt and find my accessories. Okay? Some different ways of dealing with it. And the reason why I'm showing you all these different things here is if I wanted to try to get any point across to you, it's that you can make this thing work in whatever situation you have. Okay? Some more different ways of dealing with it. Even not to say that the fiber bucket was bad, it's the intake and exhaust on this is what's really the key to it. This part right here, if I had one, I'd probably use one. But I don't have one, so I use what I have. Okay. Okay, some other different ways of dealing with it. Again, you're finding that people are using wood, a combination of wood and plastic, a combination of wood and metal. Some of them are all metal. Some of them have plexiglass in them. It just all depends on, here again, what you have and how you can adapt it to your particular situation. Some of the ways that I use the vacuum is I use it on a router. Okay, so I don't hook up this to my main vacuum system, but I need a way of getting chips out. And one of the things that, I don't know if you guys have this thing or not, but if you have a portable router hooked up on just a stand, you don't have a nice fancy stand like some of the guys I know. If this is, what it is, it's an entity on this end. This pipe comes along. It's got another pipe that goes to the bottom, and both of them. And I tell you, I had 0 chips anywhere within the vacuum cleaner with it. It does have on the bottom side of this, the black hose that goes up underneath there. It's got it's a flexible rubber deal that fits into the plate, and between the two of those, there is no chips to be had anywhere. I really enjoyed that. Okay, so I hooked it up to a machine such as a router. I use it to hook up to a sander, and again, I needed a means of getting the hose to hook up to my sander. So what did I do? I took me a piece of PVC, heated that buddy up, and on the key to the sander, there's a little rectangular slot down there. Heated me up a piece of PVC and just whittled that buddy right in there and just let it cool. Pops right on, pops right off. Nice, good feel. Okay.
You find the thin wall or the 40 gauge works better?
It depends on the situation that you're going to be using it in. If it's going to be on some small thing like that sander, I would prefer to use the thin wall. If I'm going to hook it up to this thing over here, I want the thick wall. It sort of makes a difference in terms of what you're going to use it in, the situation you're going to use it in. Got to be flexible. Okay, I use it to clean the floor with. One of the things that I have found out, I was using my big old Genie vacuum with this big old stiff hose, and I'd cuss that rascal every time I had to clean the floor. But now that I've got this, I'm using that smaller hose. It's a lot easier, a lot better. So that makes it a lot better. All right, some observations. Size doesn't matter. Isn't that great, guys? Size doesn't matter. Yeah, we heard that one. Okay, no exacting dimensions. Okay, it fits, very flexible, whatever size you want to work with. Okay, the design is based on your imagination and available materials. And gentlemen, I want you to know that I didn't step off the property to get any of the things that I made that with. I made it in about 2 days. The plate down there is my old counter. I never, of course you guys have been to my shop, sort of, if you remember about it. I don't throw anything away. Okay? But that is the old countertop that I took out when I put in granite countertops at the house. Okay? If I was going to make a
Put a picture on it
suggestion.
again, Dan.
I'm sorry?
He's doing it.
Okay. If I was going to make any suggestions about buckets to use, I would recommend that you get a bucket with a screw-on lid. Now, this is one that is actually some pool chemicals. It's BioGuard pool chemicals that I think my neighbor was tossed away. He has a pool, so he tossed stuff away, so I happened to go over there and scarf it up because I thought I might be able to use that at some point in my life. I had oil in it. I used it for used oil. You know, when I changed oil in the car, I put oil in it for a while, and then I had another substance in it. So that screw lid on there, I thought, you know, if I'm going to have to empty this thing, fussing with these lids like this can get to be a real pain, especially if you put it on there real tight. And I've got one of those little handy-dandy lifters, makes it better, but still it's a pain. But if you can find a bucket with a screw-on lid. Now, ready? This is my collector, and it's flexible. Okay, it is flexible from the standpoint that you'll notice that the only thing that's tied down to this is the vacuum and the caster. Matter of fact, I even had the casters at home. Good old Harbor Freight. It's one of those kind of things you know that at some point in your life you're going to use these things. If you're there, you might as well get some. But all right, I use this bungee cord to hold this thing together. And so this whole thing here is flexible. I can take it off. Take the pipes off of it. When I want to take it apart, all I have to do is simply unscrew it. And then I can take this out and dump it. Okay? Now, Mateus had a problem with this part right here. I decided I wasn't going to have that kind of a problem, so I carefully cut this out. And this whole ring here is just a press fit. Friction fit is all it is. This part here, if I work with it hard enough,
Don't.
it's not that big a deal. I mean, it just pushes right. I've had it off. I think. But if you do a pretty good job of, matter of fact, I even took a file after I sawed it out with a saw, and to make it nice and smooth. And once you put that on there, that friction fit is about all it takes to do the job. Huh? The bucket's tapered, so you're going to get a good fit. All right. There's the baffle that I have in there now. Okay. And this top part here, I sort of followed after. I guess you probably noticed I sort of followed after Mateus, my hero. This is my top part. This is a piece of MDF. Okay, some that I had there. My baffle is made out of plywood. I got a piece of plywood on the bottom side here. This, as a matter of fact, this is a old part off of an old cabinet door I saw it on. Anyway, the reason why I have the wood on either side is to give it some reinforcement. And
Seal too.
yeah, and it gives it a good seal. And I drilled this hole with a Forstner bit, and then it's actually a little bit too small. And this is where I got a lathe, took it over to the lathe, and I cut it out so that just is a good force fit. There's nothing screwed on. The only thing screwed on to this is just the bottom to the top plate. This is a good tight fit, and it works pretty good. Okay, the inside of my collector is basically the same thing as Mateus had. And I followed his lead on this. I used the light to shine through. I made this, the intake part here, I made this first, and then I put it up there, showing the light through it, showed me right where to cut that hole. Very good. I was really glad to know that. Saved me from having to think about that. And then it's just a matter of connecting it back together. Normally I don't take this off of it. This, as a matter of fact, that's the first time I've had that off of it since I made the thing. As a matter of fact, I could even sort of bend it up, done that, and I could probably even readjust this. I'm going to do it like this. Okay? And basically that's my vision. Okay? So you have decisions, decisions, decision. Okay? And the main important thing that I found out through all this whole process is the cyclone effect is the most important part. Okay? The baffle just enhances the process. Okay? That's all, folks.